Hi everybody, and thanks for taking the time to watch this presentation. This presentation is going to be on the Fanvil PA3 SIP paging gateway. The structure of this presentation will basically be a product overview, some highlighted features, some application scenarios, and some comparisons. First of all, part of the PA3 is part of the Fanvil group, and the products interact with each other, and the selection of products actually offer you various solutions, and they can intermix and do various things. So we've got the X series phones, which goes from the X1 all the way through up to the X7A at the moment. They're all color screen. They're the color DSS or BLF keys, etc. Multicastable through them, etc. We've then got the H series. We've got the H2 here, the H3, and the H5 here, which is also just about to have the H5W release, which is a Wi-Fi version of the phone. Note the colors now available are black and white, which making a lot of the hotels, etc. quite pleased. We have the I-series intercoms. These are a very solid little product. Great range, one of the best on the market. Well, it is the best on the market. I can't think of anybody who have more of a complete range through the intercoms. They range from entry level through to the i10 and the i10V, which is a video version, which is a plastic type unit, works very well. Is used as a mini paging unit as well, all the way through to the top of the range, i33Vs, etc., and through full IP rated on various levels, as well as AX rated. So these are like vandal proof phones, etc., K10 range, etc. We're just about ready to release the indoor stations as well. We actually have released one of them, and we'll be going through the rest of them. These are basically display phones used for apartment buildings, hotels, nursing homes, that type of thing. Great little units. We'll be sending more information out about them. We have the PA2 and now the PA3, which we will be going through in this presentation. We've also got the management system here, the favourite out of the lot. Well, through we have the FDMS, which is basically a locally driven unit. So you have the ability to, for example, if you have a particularly large site, hospital, that environment, and they want to run their own FDMS, they can do that locally. Or there now is a FDMCS, which is C for cloud. Okay, sorry, a bit of a tongue tire for me. That lives in the cloud and is given to, we can set up your own portal on that for you, for your own customers, and that is free from Fanvil for you to use. And basically that will allow you to deploy, manage, and monitor all of the Fanvil range that are in here. So if you haven't yet had a look at that, you've got a bit of time, next few days by any chance, just let us know and we will send you out a link and set up your own cloud monitoring system that you can have a look at. Okay, so let's kick off. Let's get into the product. So we have got the Fanvil PA3 paging gateway. First comment probably to be made is, what's the difference between a PA3 and a PA2? Okay, because fundamentally they look similar, they sound similar, but they are two very different products. The PA2 is more of a phone environment and interface, but the PA3 is more towards the high definition voice now. Okay, so one of the big fundamentals of it is that the PA3 actually can store and play MP3 announcements, okay, in their native form, whereas on a PA2 or other devices out in the market, shall we say, they want, if it's a recorded device, they want something like a 8K, 8-bit sort of really crunched down format voice file. So whereas the PA3, it'll run MP3 native. Okay, it also has the G722 and the Opus codec, which allows high definition to be broadcast across it. So this is really a good product for those who are involved with some serious, if they want serious audio quality for their paging and music type environment. It's a very dynamic little unit and can sort that out. Okay, so as we go through this presentation, we'll be jumping a little bit about the PA2, but just to give you a bit of a definition of point of difference on where they are. But as we go, you'll see that where the PA3 is now and where it's going to be going in the future. Okay, so let's just give it a quick run over. It's a Linux system, of course. Standard, it's 128 megabyte ROM and 64 meg RAM. You've got a status indicator light, which has got its own little purpose, can be switched for network status or IP registration status, depending on what you want it to do. I've already talked a little bit about the high definition audio. We'll be talking about that a bit more as we go, but basically it's got the G722 codec, which a lot of phones nowadays have got, but the Fanvil has got the Opus codec. Now that is the next step up again. So that is a good little feature it's got. So that's a key difference. It's got two press button keys on it that can be used for speed dials, supporting for speed dials. And they've also got other functions, such as you can use them to press button page multicast groups, so one button for each one, that type of thing, and a few other bits and pieces. Network is a 100 meg network port. It's got two SIP line registrations. It's got one speaker interface and one mic interface, and you can use the PA2 kit to enable that with a speaker if you just want to use it for a phone type environment. It's got an audio output interface. It's got an audio input interface. A couple of points of difference. It's got a TF-SD card type slot that you can insert a TF card into. It's got a USB slot, so you can have a USB stick in there. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. It's fully PoE rated, so it doesn't have to have a power supply to work, depending on the application that you want to do. Okay, talk about that a little bit more. And installation is wall mounted and or desktop mounted. So let's go over this a little bit more detail on the hardware side of things. So if we just look on the back side of the unit, we've got an LED key and a key number 1. So the LED key, we can actually wire the LED status, and we can, for the line 1, and we could put that on a device, or hypothetically, let's say we're going to put it to replace an older analog intercom, and it's got a faceplate that the building owner says, no, we've got to use that because it's, historical reference of something from years ago. So we could use the Fanvil little speaker and microphone unit on it. We can put a push button, use the push button on it, and they can use the existing plate type scenario. And you can put an LED status on the plate so that at a glance they'll know what's wrong with the unit, whether it be a network or a SIP registration error. Okay. And then we've got a second LED and a second key for the second registration and type unit. We've also got like a push to talk scenario and all that sort of thing we can use. We've got a reset key. It's just a little, if you look over here, it's just got a little hole there that you can put a paper clip or something into and do the reset. And there is our TF card. Okay, and as you can see, it's just a tiny little SD cards, just like a cell phone, plugs in there. I believe it's up to 32 gig, I think, but it could be a 64. I can check if you want to give me a call about that later, if it's greatly important. Okay, so let's look at the front side of it. We'll start over from the right-hand side here. So that's the USB, okay. The question asked so far is, well, why would you use a USB when you've got a little TF card? Because in reality, it's easy to swap, okay? And that'll come clear later when I'm running through a few things, particularly when we come through to the time schedule. Okay, we've got a power input here. 12 and 24. Now this is used for our passive speaker amplifier, this bit here. So by default, if we're just using the PoE, it'll be a 10 watt output. But there are another 2 steps up. If you have 12 volt, I believe it steps up to 20 watts. And if you've got a 24 volt power supply, it'll drive a 30 watt speaker. Okay, so that's what that does. Otherwise, it can just drive, sorry, I'll just kick back there. Otherwise, it'll just use the 10 watt off the PoE. So there's your network input, PoE, of course. If you do not have a PoE and you need to have it powered, try using the a PoE injector, okay, if that's practical. You've got your volume control up and down keys here, okay. You've got then over here you've got these plugs here. Now just a quick note, the unit comes complete with a little screwdriver and the plugs with a little tiny screw to put your wires into, so everything comes complete, ready to go. So you've got a mic input here, you've got a line out input here, and you've got a line in input here. Okay, makes that pretty straightforward. And you've also got an audio line input plug there if you don't want to use these here. Okay, so what do we use these for? The line out we would use to an active speaker. Okay, so in English what an active speaker is a speaker that's got its own amplifier all on board, inbuilt type scenario. Quite common nowadays, you see them around in the shops. The speaker out is for the passive speaker. Okay, that's basically a normal speaker or even a bullhorn if you've got the right specs that will be driven off the amplifier that is inside the PA3. Then, of course, you've got your line in, and you could put a mixer on that if you so wish, so you can swap various things around. Anything from microphone, your mobile phone if it's got music on board, your DVD player, radio, that kind of type of thing. Okay, so I like the small, stylish, and fits any interiors. Well, okay, the small and stylish is probably more of a sales thing, which is, yes, it is. It's actually quite a pleasing little unit. It's not big. It's I had someone describe it as putting a pack of cards side by side or on top of each other, and you roughly get the same size. Well, it's a little bit bigger than that. If we could imagine 2 cigarette packets, I think would probably be more the size of it. It fits in the palm of your hand. Okay, it's an aluminium case. It's not plastic or anything like that. It's solid. It'll take a couple of knocks on its outer casing without any problems. It can be mounted. It's the key thing though. It's small and it's PoE driven. Okay, so because it's small, it can fit in all sorts of hard to get places. You can put it in a wall behind the unit that is driving, whatever the unit is. It can sit in a post, in a pole. A lot of these help pole type scenarios now. In a university or an airport or bus station or whatever like that, if they need a car park, if they need a help environment, they just want a flat plate with a microphone and a speaker on it, your unit can sit behind. Even in a car park, a lot of these car parks, I'm just thinking of Middlemore actually, they've got the call buttons on the car park posts when you lose your ticket type scenario. And after making you feel uncomfortable, they push a button and let you light it up and let you out. So the boxes are designed to fit in scenarios like that. So it's rather good. So it's small, stylish, suitable for limited space in most applications. And it comes with a wall or a desk mount, as we said. So, but as you can see from the screw holes here, you can mount it top or bottom, upside or down, because it's got slots for both directions. And you just mount it wherever you want to do it. You want to mount it, and away it goes. Simple as. It's got the audio input and output, so you can broadcast via your amplifier or a broadcast speaker and or intercom. Okay, it can be used for emergency broadcasting and background music in different scenarios. Because you can connect to 2 different interfaces and keys, it can set up functions of emergency calls and hands-free intercom through cloud management. Essentially, it's a phone. as well. So with the two lines that you can dial out on using the two buttons. So this is very much a chameleon type product, and that's why it's a little bit difficult sometimes explaining exactly everything it can do, because it can do not only like 3 areas, it can do combinations thereof. And your imagination's the one that's going to slow you down on this one, to be honest with you. I've seen guys use these, the PA2 for example, I'll use as an example. They're beginning to use them in IP paging scenarios, but they're putting analog speakers on them, because the environment that the paging's in means that people tend to walk off the speakers. So if they put an analog one in, it's a lot cheaper than a IP one. So yeah, it works well. So the scenarios of how you use these makes a big difference. But again, we'll be going through this presentation. You'll see what I mean as we go. So highlighted features. You can connect this to a cloud service. Okay, and I've got an example or two that you might like that, but fundamentally that's the paging. Okay, it's small and stylish. Okay, it's small and it does the job. It's robust and it does the job very, very well. It's clear voice, yes, because it's got codecs that other people don't have now, and it is exceedingly clear and high definition voice now. MP3 broadcasting, it'll take your MP3 files and you can make a scenario of what you do with them and how to do it. Easily expand, very easy, because it's very easy to install. And if you just need another one, you just add them. And they're priced exceedingly well. Contact Everly for that, and we will have a talk to you about that. Easy to deploy. It's basically a SIP phone, guys. If you imagine you've dealt with a SIP phone, every one of you have probably done that now, and you've got to register it and put a server in and do this and do that, and it's multicast this and multicast that. It's actually pretty straightforward, and it's from the same technology level. It's just a different application level. So when you're deploying these, once you get your head around one of them, it suddenly the world's your oyster in regards to how you apply these technologies, and this is how you're going to get the advantage over your competition, the ones who aren't selling these products. And it's very easy to maintain, reliable, etc. And with the FDMCS, it just takes it to its next level where it can be monitored 24/7 if it's so. So what we're saying here is that we know that on like for example, a PA2, we could have a camera from it, or if we have any of the I-series phones that have got videos, when people are making a call and trigger the call, they actually play the video from the I-series phone. E.g. if I've got an i10V and I press a button and it'll show the camera on the front of the phone showing me looking at the phone. Okay, and I can set the camera to be connected to an NVR for 24/7 monitoring of that area that the camera can catch. This feature on the PA3 enables you to actually link to an existing camera. Okay, if it's got the compatible connectivity to it, which most have nowadays. So an example, and when it makes a call, it actually will stream the picture from the camera. Okay, where would you use this sort of thing? So imagine that you're in a secure area and you are want to get into a building, and could be anything, could be armor guard, could be just anything, security. And you walk up to the building, press the button and the PA3 acts as a phone, but then grabs the image from the camera that is high and above you, but back from the door a bit. So not only can it see you who you are, and you could turn towards it if you wanted, but it shows the walls to the side of where a normal intercom would be mounted, so that you can't see anyone just leaning against the wall hiding, so two people want to get in. It shows the area that is around them. It might be a foyer area, so that the door can be unlocked and you know no one's going to go charging in after you. So basically, it instead of using a camera on board with the actual device, it's using an existing aftermarket camera or third-party camera to show the area that you want it to show. Okay. The cloud platform, just want to touch again a little bit on the FDMCS and the FDMS. Don't underestimate this. This is not only a redirection unit, it will actually pre-configure the phone. So when the phone's plugged in, you could set them up with a MAC address in the cloud server. It will in turn recognize the phone, load up all your local configuration files that you've made, deploy it to your PBX and or cloud, and then you can monitor. It'll not only monitor it to make sure that and alert you if anything goes wrong, but if you want to change anything on any of your customers' phones, instead of remoting into this the phone, the classic example would be your names and various bits and features, the BLF keys and all that kind of thing. You simply go into your cloud session, change it, and then when the phone is restarted, it loads up the new configuration. So it's basically a no-touch type deployment. It monitors pretty much all of the Fanvil range, and if anything goes wrong with like an intercom, it'll send you an email to let you know that it's gone offline or something along those lines. Instead of finding out that people can't get into the building, it's more of a proactive approach. Okay, applications. Let's kick off with the basic 101 type scenario. We know it can be a phone. We've talked about that. So let's go into something else. What else can it do? So what we have got here is that we have got two, basically an analog amplifier over in this building here. Okay, not unusual. So we might have a PABX over here. It might have IP phones, etc. It might have an on-premise PABX that can actually do multicast paging. Okay, but over here there's an analog speaker. What are we going to do with that? Okay, so what we do is we put a PA3 in here. We put our line out input into our amplifier here, and that in turn will drive these existing speakers. Then we can have what we call audio streaming here, for example, which is multicasting, and the PA3 converts that through to an audio output, and then anything that pages from the PBX using multicast will page through to into the analog unit. By the way, also since we have got an X3210 or any IP Fanvil phone, and matter of fact any other phone that is multicast compliant, and not all of them are, but there's some of them can, you can hit one of the BLF keys and page through the amplifier as well. Just bear in mind multicasting has various priorities, so you can manage that, who's allowed to do what and where. Then there's two things that I want to talk about here. The audio source. If we've got broadcast analog amplifiers, etc., and they're close to wherever this is going to be, but might be remote, but let's say it's close, we could do the direct input into the PA3 here as well. But hypothetically, let's just say this is in the old block way down the back, and they don't want to upgrade it into IP speakers or anything yet, but they still need to have it paged. So we could put a PA3 up here with an input here, and then we could multicast it down to the second PA3. Okay, so because it might be a fiber link, for example, between these buildings, because nowadays we don't put copper into the ground, or we don't put a lot of copper apart from the networking cables for voice. So in this case, we've got a building here, and they're connected via a fiber link, and they're on the same LAN network. We can multicast across from PA3 to PA3. Okay, so that means we could have our radios, microphones, mobile, whatever inputs we're putting into the PA3 here, and it'll multicast across and not affect the any of the speakers or etc. Because we've got 10 multicast groups that we can use to manage what we do here. Okay, so that is scenario one. So essentially for when you're just putting a new PABX in, or you put in a new cloud solution in, because this will work for that as well, and you want to, and they're still linked together, but you've got an analog amplifier, you can use the PA3 to take care of your paging, etc. Okay, so scenario one. Scenario two. Now we have got a problem because we've got an office here where we've put our nice new IP PABX into, and they're connected all the way to all these phones via SIP registrations. That's no problem. But we've got an old pager in here again. What are we going to do with that? And we might have a couple of pages in here, it doesn't really matter. What we're trying to say here is that what we can do is register the PA3 to two extensions on site A. So that's site A and this is site B. We can register two extensions and we can call those extensions from the extensions up here in head office and site A. So what happens is, let's say we call SIP line 1. SIP line 1 goes into the PA3. PA3 goes, incoming call. I'll answer it, but what I'm going to do is convert that into a multicast using XXX group. Okay? And that multicast now will multicast across to the VoIP phones which are in the site B, the remote site. Now the remote site could be anywhere. I don't care. It could be in Australia, it could be down the road, it could be down in Christchurch, it could be up in Auckland, doesn't matter. But I can page on these phones here. I could also, using this multicast one here, have this PA3 down here, down another part of the building, integrating to this here, to the analog pager to drive speakers, etc. But if it's multicast, then I'll also use non-Fanvil speakers, if I so wish, SIP speakers, Melgo for example, so that we could drive the IP speakers. Okay. If I want two groups, let's hypothetically say I don't want to use this analog because this analog's in the workshop, in the big, dirty old workshop, and I don't want to replace it or anything. We could actually multicast a second group using the second registration to do the same thing, but only go to this group here. Does that make sense? I'm hoping it does. Okay, so that is just by using two SIP registrations. Now here's the interesting point. We can actually, because we're only using these two SIP registrations for incoming calls, e.g. we only want this main group over here paging this main group over here, we actually can call out on the two registrations. So effectively we could also now use the push buttons and the microphones and speaker from the PA2 kit to make an emergency call phone or wall phone or emergency phone, and they could actually press that and it'll actually dial out and ring somebody. Okay, could be an after hours emergency. One button calls the boss, one calls the 111 service. Okay, so options like that. So we're defining in here that we can convert the SIP into a multicast call, and then away you go. So far so good. I hope that makes sense. So next scenario is, now let's hypothetically say we've got a cloud, okay, and we are servicing two remote sites. Okay, one site's in Auckland and one site's in Christchurch. Okay, they can transfer calls and answer calls between the phones because they're using the cloud as the central area. But I have got an old paging system sitting here. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to page my phones and the paging, so I might not need the paging system. I could still actually multicast here, but I could now use my SIP both way if I so wish. So these people here can page these people here, and so the incoming calls on site B here will be converting to multicast, and then I could actually make these people call across here and make the incoming calls here go to multicast A or B for the two lines, and then call them. Okay, so what I've got is paging both bidirectional on both sites using the cloud server. And from the customer's perspective, it's going to be pretty transparent. They don't know that it's using a SIP registration. It's just doing it. So quite clever. So, there are ways, of course, to do, not on the cloud, but say, there are ways to do it. using networking and WANing, but it's a huge engineering job. This is a simple, basically lick and stick, and it goes. It's basically a SIP registration, couple of commands, bang, 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 you've got multicasting, and away it goes. Okay? So that's that scenario. Quite cool, if I say so myself. So now this is an interesting one. And when I actually explain this to you, you're probably going to go, hey, but it would be great if, okay, don't say that to me just yet. You can ring me up later and tell me, hey, it would be great. Let's just say we're still talking to Fanvil and trying to develop this thing. And it's got huge potential. But right now, let's just stick with what it'll do. Okay, so we go back to our scenario where we have got a site, okay? And we have got an existing amplifier, okay? That's cool. So we can page, we've discussed that we can do multicasting paging and audio streaming, etc., or even SIP phone calls into the site, okay? And we can still connect to analog, etc. Now this is purely to do with the amplifier, okay? This is not using multicast here, okay? So the unit, the PA3 has got an audio scheduler on it. Now what does that mean? Well, that basically means that you can load a whole bunch of files, audio files, into the PA3 in a USB stick or SD stick. I wouldn't bother using local. You can if it's only a couple of things, but if you don't want to do that, that's fine. And then you can set them up to play at certain times. Now there's a daily schedule, a weekly schedule, and a monthly schedule, and that's it. Okay? But the first thing I need to explain very clearly is that it will only send it to the line output, and it will only at this point in time work with an amplifier. Okay, so all of this still works, all the paging still works, the music on works, this works, that works, but it has an added bonus of having an audio scheduler all on board that will drive an analog amplifier. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the phone interface screenshot here just to show you kind of how it works. Okay, probably best explains it this way. So what I've got is that I've got a schedule that I can create. So here's the schedule that I've created here before. And it's basically health and safety index 1. It's a time play audio. It's using a UDisc, which is the USB disc. The WAV file is called 1.wave. It's going to be played once, and it's going to be doing it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And at 8:45. Okay, so that's the end result. How do you create them? So up here, you create the name of the event that you want to do it. And then you can say, well, what type of event is it? It's only 3 options, but the one you want is a timed play audio, okay? Now, audio path, UDisc. If you drop that box, it'll give you local, TF, and UDisc. Okay, let's stick with UDisc, and I'll explain why. And then basically, when you click that, it'll drop down. When you go to the next setting and do the drop-down box, it'll bring up all the names of the files that are on there. Now, why would I use a USB over just an SD or local? Well, this is why. Because if, for some reason, I need to change my, whatever this thing's used for, health and safety, for announcements, for whatever, I can actually, as long as I use the same file name format and same, I just bear in mind the names that I've used for what times and what particular announcements, I can replace those announcements using the same naming format, and the PA3 will pick it up and just keep going. So you can actually swap your USBs, just bing, bing, and out she goes, and then you can have a whole heap of new announcements, okay? So that can be pretty damn cool. Okay, so that's that side of it. This audition side here is once you've chosen it, you can click audition, and it'll play it through the line output or its own amplifier output. I've done also a lot of testing. I had just a passive speaker sitting across the PA3, and I was just listening to what had set up and played it through there just to test it. And once it's running, it'll keep running until I tell it to stop display mode. Do you want it to be circular, e.g. keep repeating itself, or once? Okay. Now, next thing is weekly. Okay, so I chose weekly for this example because there's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday ticked. Those two off. Okay. Options, it's line out only. I just reiterate that. Cannot use multicasting at this stage. Okay, comparisons. By now I'm hoping that you would have seen there is a distinct difference between the PA2 and the PA3. The PA2 has got its end of the market, which is a little bit more exclusivity because it's got the relay and the sensor on it, etc., and a few other bits and pieces. But the PA3, as you can see, is leaning more towards the high-end video thing, but with the time sequence plan on it, you can see the potential of where we could be going with that in the future. But at this point in time, it works very well with PA speakers, etc. So it's got the onboard memory, as well as the TF and USB. It's got two keys that can be used for various applications. It's got the MPA encoding as well as the Opus codec as well. Okay, so I'm not going to keep you any longer. Thank you for your time. I do appreciate it. But if you need any more information, you want to talk about the solution, or you want to get a sample of this unit to use in your office or show customers, etc., give us a call, because we're always looking to do demo deals, etc., with you to make sure you've got it right and understand it. You can on-sell it if you wish. It's entirely up to you. But feel free to give us a call at Everly. We're here to help you. We're here to help you with your sales and get as much as you can out of a sale, and that the customer gets the best solution that they can. Thanks for your time, guys, and you have a great day.